Today's video is for the Mallory mini crossbody bag. This is from Allsewpetite. This pattern's actually in testing right now, and I was fortunate enough to be chosen to test it. This pattern is exactly what I need right now. It is a cute, simple pattern that comes together quickly, but it has a couple of skill builders in it and several options to choose from. You can choose if you want to make your credit card slots out of a woven material, which I am, or a vinyl material or non-fraying material, which is option number 2. I'm doing the option number 1 just because I love making credit card slots out of woven. It's one of my favorite things. Also, this pattern uses a closure, which is a tongue lock. I've never used one of these and I've really been wanting to. We're going to have some really unique connectors for the end of our strap. I have no idea how this is going to look, but I'm so excited to try it out. Whenever I was reading over the pattern instructions, this is a technique I have not done before, so I'm really hopeful that it looks good in the end. But you will cut out 4 of these connector pieces, and the pattern does call for 1.5 inch webbing, so that's what I'm using. I have my swivel hooks, I have an adjustable bar, and I have 2 D-rings. Make sure you check the sizes for the hardware because it is a couple different sizes of hardware. Here is that credit card slot piece for the woven that I'm doing. I don't have anything on this woven. I'm leaving it uninterfaced, but I probably will interface it after I'm done. I will show you that step after we get everything folded. All of my fabrics, both the woven and the vinyl, are all from Jen's Fabrics. So I'm going to set the credit card piece aside. Here is the gusset. You will have an exterior and a lining gusset. I'm using the vinyl, so I'm not adding anything on it. For the woven, I am going to add a layer of Royal Pixie Light, which is like an equivalent of a SF101. I have 1 D-ring connector. I have 2 side pieces. They are cut out of the vinyl and they have to be mirrored. Nothing is on the back for these as far as interfacing goes. I have 3 main body panel pieces. 1 is the exterior, which will be my vinyl, and 2 are going to be the lining. On the 2 lining pieces, I do have a layer of the Royal Pixie Light. For the other main panel piece, for the front, that will be what's constructed out of your credit card slots and the 2 mirrored side panels. For the flap, it's going to be super fun. We are going to have a flap on the back, which creates a slip pocket, and then it is going to come around the front to have the tongue lock here for the attachment. Just remember, on this flap piece, it really needs to be non-directional. Mine is almost non-directional, but just make for sure that you're okay with how the direction goes on your flap piece. You will have 2 flat pieces, exterior and lining. On both of mine, it's the cotton woven, and on both, I have it layered with the Royal Pixie Light. I might put on a layer of Royal Pixie Heavy. I have not decided officially yet, but I will decide before we get to this step for sure. But that's all the pieces we need. So you can see it's not a lot of pieces to cut out, and it's going to look really cute. It's not a very wide crossbody. You can see how big the gusset is. It's going to be slim, which is perfect. This is a mini crossbody. It is designed for you to be able to just carry for the essentials you need. Especially great if you're going hiking or in the parks or out running errands and you don't want something big and bulky to have to carry around. So let's go ahead and get started sewing up the Mallory mini crossbody bag from Allsewpetite. This pattern has us start with the construction of the credit card slots. As I mentioned, there is an option 1 and an option 2. I'm using option 1, which has you make them out of a fraying material like a woven. Option 2 is for non-fraying. So what you do is you start with a very long piece and you start at the bottom. First thing you'll want to do is you'll want to mark the placement for that tongue lock or that closing mechanism on the wrong side, or at least I put it on the wrong side of mine, and so I have that there just as a reminder as to where it's going to go. This will be the middle of the front of the bag, so that is how we'll have that main closure. I will add a little bit of Royal Pixie Heavy or a Decaville Light to help support that. I just haven't done it yet. But what the pattern tells you to do is you start here at the bottom and you make marks on the right side of your fabric, keep them within the seam allowance, for the fold lines. So you'll have 3 fold lines or pinch lines, however you want to call it, but then you'll have 3 lines and they are noted as N1, N2, and N3. That is where you're going to pull this complete up to, or this fold up to. So let's start with the first one. We pinch it, wrong sides together, and then we bring it up to the N1 mark. Then we're going to do the next pinch line, fold it together, wrong sides again, and this time we're going to bring it up to N2. We start with that last one, pinch it together, and fold it up to N3. I pinch and pull it up to each line, and then I iron everything together. That is the best way for me, because if after I do it, I don't like the way it looks. Like this middle one of mine actually has a little bit too much space, but I'm okay with it. But if I wanted, I could even pull this up a little bit to kind of adjust and compensate before I have everything pressed flat. On this woven piece, I have no interfacing at all. I only add the interfacing after I've top stitched everything together. It's just what I do. Sewing on domestic machine, I don't want a lot of extra bulk in there, and so I feel like this is best. But something I did start doing a while back, and I don't do it all the time anymore, but this pattern reminded me of it. Lots of times I will add a layer of Decaville Heavy or Decaville Light, Royal Pixie Heavy, whatever you have in hand, right there into the crease of each of your folds. I actually keep a bag of these cut, so whenever I have some scrap interfacing, I'll just cut it down into strips. I think it's about 1/2 of an inch wide, and it doesn't matter how long it is because you're going to trim it up anyway. But then whenever I fold it, so let's start back at the bottom. That Decaville Heavy is right here, so when I top stitch across it, I'll get a better top stitch, and then also it'll provide a little bit of more support and stability whenever you're inserting credit cards into this piece of fabric. It just makes it a little bit fancier. Do you have to do that? You definitely do not, but it does help if you want to just have a better looking bag, or a better looking set of wallets, I should say, because it just provides that extra support. After I top stitch each of these, I will come over and add a layer of interfacing here, and it'll kind of glue it down, but it'll provide a little bit more support. Also, before I top stitch, I'll pull out that side piece to make for sure that it's about the same size. Mine's maybe an 1/8 of an inch off, which doesn't bother me too much, but I can kind of adjust if I feel like I need to. But I want to make for sure that it's about the same size before I start top stitching, so I won't have to pull out the stitches if it's really off. So now what I do to top stitches, I just lift one of these up, and then I'll take it over here and do just an 1/8 of an inch away. I don't always top stitch my credit card slots, but where this is a tester bag, I definitely want to follow the instructions completely. That's the first row of top stitching. I'm going to complete that with the other credit card slot top pieces, and so I'll have 3 top stitched. After I have this last slot top stitched, what I can do is I can go back to my ironing board, add the extra interfacing for my closure, and then I can also fuse all of this together with a little bit of Royal Pixie Light. I'm going to go ahead and add that extra interfacing, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So here's the interfacing for the top of the cards. Typically I'll put interfacing all the way down in one piece, but I need to add that lock on this piece right here, so I didn't want to interface it down. So I put a separate piece of interfacing here, and then another small piece of interfacing under this mark, just to make for sure this is extra secure since it is a woven material, and that lock is a little heavy. So the pattern tells you to make this T. After you make the T, you take out this twist lock piece. I'm going to go ahead and separate the top from the bottom, so this is the bottom, and she says to put this bar directly on that top bar of the T. Once you do that, you can find the placement for your prongs, which I did, and I went ahead and marked them and used my seam ripper to cut. So once I have those cut and everything ready to go, I just take this piece, I'm going to flip it over the other side, and then I'm going to insert that bottom part just like I need to on those markings. I'm going to add my, what is this, an anchor onto the back. And then I'm going to push my pieces open. And then at this point, she tells us that we can go ahead and add a piece of masking tape or whatever we prefer to add to the back of this piece for a little bit of security there. At this point, we can go ahead and baste down the sides before we add on those side pieces. So I'm just going to baste the credit cards together just to make for sure they don't shift when we're adding the side pieces. The other part of the twist lock will be installed at the end, so I just set it aside. Now we're going to pull out these two side pieces. We want the curve on the outside just so it mimics the other main panel pieces. So you'll take one of your side pieces, make sure the curve is on the outside, and then just place it right sides together, sew down that side with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Then what you're going to do is you're going to leave that seam going out. You're not changing it at all, and you're just going to flip this side piece on top of it so that the seam will be underneath your side piece. You can finger press that, but what you're mainly going to do is you are going to top stitch the seam to the back of this side piece, so you're top stitching on the side piece. This is how the first side looks. You're going to repeat those same steps to attach this other side, and then that will have the front complete. I will compare this main panel piece to the back just to make for sure the size is correct. I'm going to set this aside and I'll work on it in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the flap piece. I have a lining for the flap and the exterior. On the exterior, you can see that I did add a tag to the bottom of it just as an extra touch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two pieces right sides together. Everything should match up perfectly, but if not, definitely make sure your bottom matches up because that's the part we are sewing first. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start sewing here on the side. I'll go over and then I'll pivot down, go all the way around this flap, the curved portion of the flap, and then back up, pivot, and go over. This bottom part will be left unsewn. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this seam allowance given in the pattern. You'll start here at this side, back stitch, and then start following that curve. Go slow. And you'll pretty much have to adjust each step so that you don't overshoot that curve. I did just trim with my pinking shears just a little bit around these curves here, but you could trim the whole flap area that you sewed with your pinking shears if you wanted to do that. But now we're just going to turn this right sides out. So when I try to push this out, you can see I'm getting a little bit of wrinkling there. So what you can do is you can just open that back up and then just take out a V out of that sharp turn right there where you pivoted, and that'll help it to lay a little bit smoother. Be careful that you don't cut into your stitches. Just that sharp pivot is all you're cutting. Do it again on this other side. And that just removes some of that extra bulk to help it lay a little bit flatter. So you can see I'm able to manipulate it a little bit better so that I can get a little bit of a smoother finish there. I'm going to pop on one of my bigger clips to kind of compress it and to hold it in place. Now this is how the front looks. You can see that everything's matching up. Everything looks good. Back the same thing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch all around the sewn edges, and then we're going to baste along the raw edges to have this all one piece. If it's too puffy and it's bothering you, you can go over the iron, but I'm just going to go slow and kind of compress it down while I sew it, and I think my top stitching will secure everything just fine. Here's how my flap looks. It's finished. You can see the interior side. You can see the exterior side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my main panel piece for the back to attach it onto it. Make sure you add a center mark on the bottom of this back main panel and the bottom of your pocket or flap piece. So when we have these, we're going to match up those center marks. You're going to notice immediately that this piece, the flap pocket piece, is much larger. That is intentional. It is designed to have a little bit of lift. Whenever I match up those center marks first, that's going to let me know that I have everything placed correctly, and then I'm going to just slowly start matching up the bottom, and then I will pull those sides in to make it kind of a 3D pocket. We'll also have that overhang there where this part is straight and the main panel is curved. We will follow that curve so that we get a nice smooth finish on this. So what I want to do is gently start bringing in these pieces and clipping all the way around down these sides on both sides of this piece. So you can see there's a lip there, so this will give us more room whenever we are using this pocket. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start slowly sewing down this edge, taking care so things don't shift so much, and then I will curve so I can stay along the main panel. The main panel is the piece that is accurate, so everything needs to kind of follow that shape. I'm just going to base 1/8 of an inch away. I will start at one side and just go all the way around. So here's how that back looks. A really great slip pocket there. That is the back piece. Of course, this front will fold around to be the flap. It looks beautiful. So there is the back. Here is the front. Look at how gorgeous this is. That is why I'm so excited for this pattern. I just think it's beautiful. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that gusset exterior piece and I'm going to clip it right sides together with the front. I will match up the mark at the bottom, so match up the centers at the bottom, then match up the tops, and then just ease everything around. I'll come back to show you what it looks like once it's clipped together, and then we will sew it together. So here is the front exterior piece. I have that gusset clipped right sides together. The way I did that was I first found the center marks on both the gusset and the front and clipped those two pieces together. Then I brought these short ends up to the top and clipped them on each side. And then I went down the sides to clip those in place. I saved these curves for last. When you have a really good fitting gusset, you should not be able to pull those curves down. You should have to make clips there. That will kind of hold the shape of the bag really nicely. That might be different for some people's thoughts on it, but I feel like a good fitting gusset, you have some snips to allow that gusset to slightly ease in, so it kind of pulls the bag together and keeps that great shape. Just my thoughts. So I made snips on both sides to fit those curves in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing here at the top, back stitch, go all the way down, back stitch when I come up the other side, and I'm going to use the full seam allowance given in the pattern. We are coming up on this curve here. I'm going to use my fingers right now to hold it in place, but if it starts slipping any and the raw edges are not able to stay together, I'll grab my hemostats. You can see this bump right here. I'm going to push it down. I'm going to make for sure I'm not sewing over any bumps, but I'm pushing it down so I can keep these raw edges pushed together. That is the main thing I'm worried about here. I'm going to slowly pivot. I have a pucker right here. I don't want to sew over that, so I'll lift up my foot, make it flat so that I can sew over the area without having a pucker underneath. You will have to lift your presser foot up and occasionally pivot to get around the curve evenly. When you get back to the straight part, you'll straighten it out. And then when you come back to this curve, you're going to repeat those same steps all again, slowly pivoting, smoothing, and holding the pieces together. This is how that gusset looks. I'll probably trim down my seam allowance by about half. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going to do that. I feel like it'll be best. Then I'm going to attach the back to this free edge of the gusset piece the same way I just did on the front. We have our two lining pieces as well, along with the lining gusset. We're going to attach this gusset to the lining pieces the exact same way, except on one of them we're going to leave an opening in the side for us to turn the bag. This lining does not have anything on it, no pockets at all. You could easily add a zipper pocket or slip pocket. I'm not going to, I'm sticking with the pattern, but just know there is room if you like to do that. Personally, I think this pattern's a really great size for things to just drop in instead of it being a big bag that you need to have pockets for organization. I feel like everything will be easy to find since it is slim and a smaller shape. So go ahead and add the gussets to the lining and finish adding the gusset to the exterior, and then we will come back and talk about the next steps. I have my exterior sewn together. I tucked the flap down inside and then I trimmed my seam allowance. I sewed the lining together, leaving an opening on the long side, and I have it turned right sides out so that I can drop it inside this exterior and sew around the top. But before we do that, we need to sew up the connector and attach it to the exterior. This connector piece, what you'll do is you'll just draw a line down the middle and then you'll fold the raw edges to that middle line. I use a glue stick and just press mine flat so it would hold in place, but that is all it is. Now I'm going to top stitch down each side, cut it in half, and then add the 2 D-rings. Now that I have it top stitch, I will just crease this and then cut down the middle. Going to go ahead and add a D-ring and then fold the wrong sides together, match up the raw edges, and then I'm just going to top stitch just because I like the way that looks right underneath the bottom of the connector, and it just kind of holds it in place there. As far as placement goes, you'll take one of your connectors and you're just going to place it in the center of the gusset. It's pretty simple to find the center since it's not a very long gusset. So just place it there and then you're going to baste in place. I'm going to add a clip so that it won't shift while I'm getting the other one clipped into place. I'm going to baste both of these down. Make sure that it doesn't shift while you're basting it. I think it's really tricky to get D-rings perfectly straight in my opinion. Once you have that basted in place, what you're going to do is you're going to slip the lining inside there. There is a space between the flap and the front. I'm going to slip this down in there, the lining down into the exterior. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect at the bottom. What we really want to do is just make for sure we get it lined up and the seams matching at the top. So I will start with the side seams and clip them into place. I'm going to fold that exterior seam away from the connector just to help since it's already got some bulk there, and that'll kind of offset the bulk a little. Do the same thing on the other side. Once you have the side seams matched, you should be able to go around and clip the tops together, and then we're just going to sew around this perimeter with the seam allowance given the pattern. So this is how that inside looks. You can see it's a little bunch in there because I didn't really take the time to push everything down. I'll straighten it up a little bit just so everything's smooth around the top. And now I'm going to sew with that full seam allowance around the inside of this bag. Just the perimeter all the way around. Here's how it looks with that sewn all the way around. Let's go ahead and trim up that seam allowance by about half again. Once you get that trimmed, go ahead and pull out your lining and start birthing the bag through the opening in the lining. I've got the bag turned right side out, but before I tuck the lining in, I'm going to go ahead and close up that opening in the side. Technically, it's better if you top stitch first and then close it just so you can make sure that you get a really nice finish here. But I am just going to go ahead and be a slight bit lazy and close it up first so I don't have to pull it back out again. So I'm just going to top stitch along that edge to close it up. Now I'm going to push the lining inside and work on getting a really nice finish on that top edge so I can top stitch all around. The main area for me that I want to check on is these D-ring connectors. I have sewn bags where I've had them really crooked, so I'm trying hard. Like on this side, you can see that it's a little crooked there. So I'll just kind of adjust it a little to make sure that the seam is rolled to where it looks really good there. So just go around, roll your seam, and then what you're going to do is you're going to top stitch all around the perimeter. It would be easier if you top stitch where you're looking at the exterior, but that would mean you turning the bag lining sides out again. And if you don't feel like doing that, you can top stitch from this side. Keep your flap out of the way. I start in the back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around. I'm going to do it slow so I can watch my stitching the entire time. Make sure that the seams are laying the way I want and just go slow and it should be fine. It's not got to be perfect, but if you go slow, it should be okay. This looks so cute. I'm loving it so much. Look at this nice slip pocket there at the back. Plenty of room back there. For that slip pocket, you can see inside the lining fits great. I still need to attach the other half of my tongue lock. Now for mine, I was looking at her pattern. Hers closes with screws, but with mine, it actually closes with like kind of, I don't even know how to say it, like prongs. So mine isn't as high quality. This is a little risky. I mean, that could pull out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center, and I'm actually going to get my husband to help me. He has a clamp. to push it down really strong to make sure it stays. But that's all I'm going to have to do is push. If you have a better version, yours is going to have screws. That's what the pattern talks about, is having screws to screw yours in, which would be more secure. I feel like mine will still be okay, but I'm going to do that part off camera because, one, I don't want to damage this, so I'm going to be holding a washcloth, but I'm also going to get my husband to help me to clamp it down really securely. So we will set that aside. I'll do that in a minute. But now we need to work on our strap. The strap is a little bit of a fancier strap. You could definitely do just a simple, plain, regular strap. But I did think this was neat. I'm really curious with how this is going to come together, so I'm going to talk about it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut a piece off of your strap. So she says to cut off this amount. She gives you the measurement and set it aside. So that's step one. Step two is to add an adjustable bar on one end and go ahead and fold the raw ends under. My webbing is super thick. It's a really high quality webbing. I'm actually a little nervous if I could even sew through it, but I'm going to try to sew through it to just secure it on here. If it won't sew through, I'll try another method, but I'm going to try my best to go slow and hope that my domestic machine can handle this webbing. That worked out perfectly, no problems at all. So now we have this end with the adjustable bar. On the other end, she says to slide on a rectangular ring. I didn't have a 1.5 inch rectangular ring, but I did have this stationary adjustable bar, and I feel like it'll be good enough. So it's not going to be perfect, but the other piece of webbing will go through that way, so it'll be a little odd, but not horribly odd. So I'm going to go with it because I do want that finished way it's going to look. And so now I'm going to take that free edge of the webbing and feed it back through this other end of my adjustable bar. Make sure you don't get things twisted around. So here's how it looks. On one end I have this, which yours will probably be a rectangular ring, and the other edge is free. So now what she tells us to do on this free edge, we have these pieces that we have to cut out. You cut out 4 of these, 2 for each side of the free webbing. So on this end, what we're going to do, because if you look here, it would barely fit, but she says what you can do to get it to fit a little bit better is you can take your scissors and you can make a triangle cut and then push it together. Now, I've never done this before, so I'm like, okay, I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up. I'll cut too big of a triangle or it won't sew together nicely, but we're going to go with it and see how it works out. You can see it's kind of unraveling, so I feel a little insecure with it being like this, so I'm going to melt the end so everything's nice and smooth. Now she says to push these ends together and to stitch across just to make it a little bit skinnier on that end. So after you have it sewn together and kind of trimmed down, then you can lay it on here and you can easily see that there's plenty of room on both sides now. So what you'll do, and what I'm going to do, is use a little bit of glue. You could use double-sided tape if you like to do that, but you'll have one side down here. We'll put the other side on top, and then we'll stitch all around here. You'll have to be careful with your stitching to make sure it looks good. She said you could edge paint this, but I don't feel like I need to. Since the inside of mine is a beige, it won't look too bad. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue first. I got the one side glued down. Now I'm going to glue down the other side. I'm going to try to be careful to make sure it lines up really nicely. Okay, it looks really good. I'm going to add some of my heavy duty clips here just to kind of hold it in place until that glue sets just a little bit. And I'm going to stitch all the way around the perimeter of this 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to be real careful that I don't pull this because even though I have some glue and a clip there, it still could shift or twist, and we don't want that. My stitching definitely wasn't perfect. That's okay. I made a big mistake down here. It does happen. But now what we're going to do is use the pattern piece to make the holes for the rivet. And then I will clip on, or slip on, I should say, this swivel hook. And I'll use those rivets to secure it into place. So your pattern piece has the marks for the rivets that you will transfer here, and then you will just install them. I'm going to do the rivets and everything off camera. So that will complete this side of that strap. But we still have this other side of the strap, and we have that other piece of the webbing. So let's pull it out. So now for this webbing, what you're going to do is you're going to cut that V on both sides of this piece. After you get both of those cut and sewn together like I did, just to make it a little bit smaller, then you will feed it through this side and push those together. Then add this other side of the strap connector. You will attach those wrong sides together, stitch around them just like we did on the other one, add the other swivel hook and rivet it into place. So it'll be the same steps for this side, except we're going through 2 pieces of webbing. Mine is thick and I'm going through vinyl, so I'm going to have to go really slow. I will use the glue to help me, but I'm going to go off camera and do these last few steps. Then we'll come back, look at everything, and talk about our final thoughts on this pattern. Oh my gosh, I have finished with my Mallory mini crossbody bag from Allsewpetite, and this is adorable. I love it so much. This really is a quick sew. You don't have a lot of pieces to cut out, and it comes together really quick and easy. If you were doing these like for batch sewing, definitely just make a simpler strap. The strap is a little bit fiddly, especially if you have thicker webbing, but that is so cute and such a unique look. I love it. The tongue lock does go together really easily. Even though mine is not a high quality one, I still feel like it's really secure. I love it so much. So here is the front. Here is the back. Let's go ahead and open up, and that can be easily opened with one hand. It's not hard to open at all. We have some credit card slots here. A beautiful opening inside. The lining fits really well. We have this great slip pocket in the back. This is an awesome pattern. I love it so much. I can see myself making a lot of these because of how quickly it comes together and how it just showcases fabric beautifully. My fabric is from Jen's Fabrics. The vinyl is from them as well. This is a print that is in their back catalog, which means it can be ordered anytime. I'm going to have a link for the pattern and also the fabric in my description. And thank you for watching another tutorial of mine. This one's one that I can definitely recommend. I love the look of it. Just look at the side. I love how skinny and slim it is. It's not going to be very bulky or heavy to carry. It's just a great pattern. It can hold your essentials easily without kind of weighing you down. Love this pattern, highly recommend it. But thanks for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. And if you sew up on these patterns, I hope you post it in Monica's Facebook group or tag her on Instagram. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and you have an amazing day today.